After having an almost 20-year legacy behind her, I think it's safe to say that Shantae is one of the most iconic indie characters of all time. Since her start on the Game Boy Color, the Shantae series has had a very interesting life. Not every video game character has been in WarioWare after all. There is so much to talk about when it comes to the Shantae series that it wouldn't be fair to simply talk about only one of these games. So why not take a look at every Shantae game in one big video? Now, as a massive Shantae fan myself, having owned the Shantae art book, 7 Sirens Collector's Edition, and a Funko Pop, I believe that I'm finally ready to go take a look at what I consider to be the spectacular world of Shantae games.
It's the very first adventure.
Now, about the original Shantae game, this is where everything began. A lot of the general concepts and characters seen later in the series originate here, from introducing fan-favourite characters like Bolo, Sky, Roddy Tops, and the main villain of the whole series, Risky Boots, who in this first game seems to be cosplaying as Shadow the Hedgehog for some reason.
Persona! This is who I am!
To recognisable enemies like the Tinkerbats and Crabs, and even key locations like Shantae's home of Scuttletown. This game has an important place in the legacy of the Shantae series, and that shouldn't be understated. But is the game itself any good? Don't know, haven't played it. I want to, but since its Game Boy Color debut, it's only ever been ported to the Switch, a console I do not own. Kinda makes it hard to judge a game you haven't played, and I didn't feel like spending over $450 to play a 20-year-old Game Boy game. Instead, I think it makes sense to give a bit of background on the Shantae franchise, perhaps for people unfamiliar to the series, or even as just a quick refresher. So, hello and welcome to another episode of A Brief History. Today's episode, Shantae, Ret to Go. Shantae was created by Erin Bell, soon to be Erin Boson, in 1994. She had the brilliant idea of creating a new kind of video game character. She was a genie who had the ability to whip monsters with her long ponytail, and she could belly dance to perform magic. Guess who it was? Over the course of several years, she and fellow animator Matt Boson would develop this concept, first being designed as a 16-bit SNES game, before being re-envisioned as a high-resolution PC game. High resolution being 640 by 480 pixels, of course. I'm sure it was high-res at the time, okay. This concept would be shown to several different publishers in the late 90s before eventually the video game startup Wayforward gave the project the green light and became the game's main composer. And during development, the game was shown to Capcom. Yeah, these guys. Capcom was impressed by the quality on display, as well as its similarities to the Mega Man titles, soon becoming Shantae's main publisher and distributor, finally ending with the game releasing on Game Boy Color in 2002. Shantae revolved around title character Shantae and her job to protect her small fishing village of Scuttletown from the nefarious Risky Boots, who's after an ancient device called the Steam Engine after being unearthed by Shantae's Uncle Mimic.
Why is he so thick?
News of this spreads around the entirety of Sequin Land, and so begins Shantae's quest to save the day. Shantae got great reviews upon release, being praised for its impressive animation and action platforming gameplay. Unfortunately, due to being released towards the end of the GBA's life, and a lack of copies produced and sold, the Half-Genie ended up underperforming, putting the Shantae series into silence, never to be seen again. But then Wayforward released 4 more incredible Shantae games as the years went, gradually becoming an indie icon, and here we are now. Even though I haven't played this game, I think it's almost guaranteed that it will eventually be ported outside of Switch land, so I guess I'm gonna have to wait for that day to come. But let's not worry about that, because every other game in the Shantae series I have fully played and completed multiple times. So these games I can actually talk about, meaning that next up we're gonna monkey dash over to 2010, or is it 2014, with
Look at me, look at you, take my revenge, that's what I'm gonna do.
A lot of what makes the Shantae series iconic was really solidified here. Because of the technical limitations of the Game Boy Color, I'm guessing there was only so many ways to really portray Shantae's world of Sequinland. So what do you do to change that? Take an 8-year-long vacation and come back running onto the DSiWare. With a brand new system powering the game and no longer being published by Capcom, Risky's Revenge truly managed to bring the Shantae world to life. It was also later re-released in 2014 as the Shantae Risky's Revenge Director's Cut, which is easily the definitive version to play, and the one I personally experienced. I'm just gonna get this out of the way quickly. Risky's Revenge is a good game. A great game even. Every Shantae game in my opinion is great. Cause at the end of the day, the core hair-whipping Shantae formula is just really fun. Chances are, if you can compliment one Shantae game for something, that compliment will likely apply to the others in the series as well to some extent. That's one of the things that makes this franchise so impressive, just how consistently fun every new release is, including Risky's Revenge. Which is exactly why I'm gonna try to focus on the best individual aspects of each game, just so I'm not constantly repeating myself. So, what is the best aspect of Risky's Revenge? Well, simply the fact that it is a Shantae game. That might seem like a bit of a cop-out, but this was only the second game in the series, and the next 3 games pretty much improve on everything. Although Risky's Revenge technically does have the weakest gameplay, story, and level design of the Shantae games I've played, it's still pretty fun nonetheless, thanks to all the little touches of personality found throughout the world that make it a Shantae game. Things like the pixel art being on point with all the uniquely designed characters and the idle animations, just spewing so much charm in just a second-long animation loop. Special highlights to the best Shantae character that was introduced in this game, the Squid Baron. His mere presence incites joy in all.
I put some dirt in your eye.
There's also the environments being so visually vibrant and unique between each other. Places like the magic fountains and the purple caves, and the underwater temple ruins of Risky's hideout are key standouts. Even the writing is still consistently comedic or having all the jokes land. It's also not afraid to acknowledge some of the more, how you say, risque character designs.
Get it?
Like with this line.
My mom dressed as the pirate lady for dad, but I'm not allowed to say such things.
Speaking of speaking, this game begins one of my favourite overarching stories of all time. The journey of Shantae learning to speak with actual words. It's kinda like Komi's story arc from Komi Can't Communicate, but completely different and unrelated. Because of this game specifically, it was originally going to be a 3-part episodic game on the Game Boy Advance, naturally titled Advance Wars. Just kidding, that would be later. It was creatively titled Shantae Advance, but this concept eventually was put all together into one game, that being Risky's Revenge. So there's almost no voice acting in this game, besides occasional grunts from Shantae herself, and this game only, voiced by Megan Glazer. Who is Megan Glazer? Don't know, but she did get a special thanks credit for Sharknado 2, so she's earned my respect. Shantae Sharknado crossover when...
You're finished!
Risky's Revenge is a solid game in its own right. It's just that it doesn't do much unique to warrant playing this if you've already played its sequels. Unless you're a big Shantae fan, or you're already interested. It's mainly because the game is a little slower and clunkier with its combat, along with featuring some less than refined hand-drawn art in some places. It just makes this one specifically not as interesting when compared to its sequels. So now that Shantae has essentially solidified its own style and personality, the next logical step was to run with that, and make the gameplay the best it could be. And that's exactly what Wayforward did.
Yeah, I like this one.
No.
I love it!
Risky's Revenge was overall a great game, only being held back by a number of minor issues that if polished and improved, could have created something spectacular. So what does Wayforward do for the next game? Exactly that. Taking everything that did and didn't work previously, and refining it all to become an almost perfect 2D game. That game eventually becoming the fan favourite in the Shantae series, Shantae and the Pirate's Curse. The latest release would be praised for its even better writing and story, its visuals, and especially for its revamped, replayable, and satisfying gameplay. And when I say the gameplay was revamped, I mean that for this title, because Shantae lost her magic at the end of Risky's Revenge, she no longer has any animal transformations, instead gaining access to the far superior pirate gear. Now Shantae's arsenal includes a variety of fun items, like the pirate hat to soar through the air, Risky's boots to dash along the ground, and a deadly knife to impale her victims.
You're finished!
As well as a pistol and cannon too. Where in the previous game, the animal transformations, although fun, were a little slow and pace-breaking at times, the pirate gear in comparison is quick, varied, and seamlessly incorporated into Shantae's moveset. You can dash at 88 miles an hour, jump into a triple jump, transition to a hat glide, ending with a DuckTales reference, all without ever needing to interrupt the gameplay's flow. And if all this sounds too overwhelming and not beginner-friendly,
No problem.
because the core progression of the gameplay is perfect. As you complete each island on Shantae's quest, you're always rewarded with another component of the pirate gear. This way the gameplay continues to stay fresh throughout the whole runtime, while also allowing the player to feel like there's always more to master when it comes to taking advantage of each move's core strengths. Even Shantae's basic movement capabilities are so well made that it's enjoyable just running and jumping around. It makes the Run Roddy Tops and Tan-Line Temple segments of the game even more fun, as they test the player's general movement skills in unique ways, without having to rely on the pirate gear as a gimmick. And that's not even mentioning how well everything blends together when you incorporate the gameplay mechanics into the boss fights. Great designs and great mechanics that work well together, along with some familiar faces, make these boss fights extremely memorable, and even offering a decent challenge at times. Take possibly the best final boss in the series, the Pirate Master. This fight just tests your skills with and without the pirate gear in such an effective way, only to then be able to use this cannon you built earlier in the game to aim cannonballs at the Pirate Master's big head while you're still fighting him. In short, I think it's neat. The only way I could see the gameplay necessarily improving is if they managed to add even more movement capabilities to Shantae's moveset. It's known that Wayforward was planning on adding in more abilities, like throwing daggers for platforms and a grappling anchor, but those ideas were cut in development. Be cool if they came back in some way for the next game though. It's easy to see why Pirate's Curse is considered the fan favourite. The gameplay as a whole really is just that satisfying to use that it makes the whole experience of playing this game such a smooth and entertaining time, showcasing how Shantae honestly has the potential to be one of gaming's most iconic indie characters. Well, that and the fact that begins part 2 of the Shantae speaking story arc. Now Shantae can say actual words, but not quite full sentences. We're kinda in the Comey getting over her word stuttering portion of the character arc. No one watching will understand this analogy I'm forcing in, but I don't care. She also has a new voice actor, thanks to Christina V. She's the voice actor behind Sailor Mars and Donald Duck Going For Your Phase. Not to mention she was even a part of the culturally significant copypasta theatre, giving us gems like this.
You have to have a very high IQ to understand Rick and Morty.
Pickle Rick!
So, where to now? If the gameplay has essentially almost been perfected, what direction could Wayforward possibly go in for a sequel? Well, mostly the right one. After the incredible sequel that was Pirate's Curse, where could Shantae go from here? The answer? Into the third dimension. Kinda. But before I continue on, if you've made it this far, well, you know where I'm going with this.
All clear!
This time around, reject pixel art and embrace smooth hand-drawn animation and 3D environments, with Shantae Half-Genie Hero. Most known for its inclusion of the iconic Giga Mermaid, of course, famous for her larger-than-life eyes and personality. Now, the general reception to this game from fans is interesting, because almost everyone agrees that it is a great game, even if it is a slight step down from Pirate's Curse in some key areas. Mainly with the gameplay and story, even if the actual writing in terms of comedy is still awesome, and the return to animal transformation gameplay from Risky's Revenge has been refined to the best it's been so far. But that's not what I want to talk about concerning this game, because the area where Half-Genie Hero really shines is with the amount of variety of playstyles present. Where in the previous 3 games there was one main story, Half-Genie Hero goes ahead and adds in multiple new game modes with completely unique gameplay styles. They may be shorter in length compared to the main game, but that's actually a positive, as I'll explain in a bit. Now, alongside Shantae's main journey, there is also now Pirate Queen's Quest, Friends to the End, the Ninja, Beach, Officer, and Jammies modes, and even now proper New Game Plus and Hard mode in the forms of Hero and Hardcore mode. Each of these new playstyles are a reason I always come back to this game. Each game mode has their own unique stories, with Pirate Queen's Quest and Friends to the End being the most unique out of all of them, with the former essentially being a retooling of the Pirate's Curse style gameplay, adding in new features like the really fun grappling gun for instance.
See? There's that again.
This large amount of variety also contributes to making this, in my opinion, the most replayable Shantae game yet. Because of the sheer variety of gameplay styles, it keeps the overall gameplay experience fresh and interesting for the player, incentivizing the replay value I just mentioned. My favourite ones to come back to have to be the Ninja mode for its fast-paced gameplay and ninja vanish moves, and Officer mode, partially because it's a Mighty Switch Force crossover, adding in side-scrolling shooting and puzzle mechanics, along with replacing the main soundtrack with Mighty Switch Force music. Anything with Mighty Switch Force music is automatically good. On the topic of music, Half-Genie Hero probably is the best soundtrack out of any Shantae game. The composer Jake Kaufman has made a ton of catchy tracks previously, but the quality and quantity of amazing songs in this game specifically is astounding. Just listen to some of these and you'll realize why Roddy Tops is always dancing.
Cue the music.
And on top of that, a lot of the best tracks from Pirate's Curse are used for the Friends to the End DLC, further increasing the variety on display within Half-Genie Hero. But here's the thing, since this game's greatest attribute is its variety, I believe Wayforward could have gone even further with this selling point, to make this entry in the series stand on its own even more. Take, for example, the new 3D graphics. Already they mesh greatly with the overall style of the Shantae series, while allowing for more depth within the background environments. Some specific areas even have you run around a circular playing field instead of a flat plane like the usual level design, taking advantage of the new art style. But what if the developers evolved on this idea, being able to move through your 3D environment while keeping the 2D gameplay? I'm basically explaining the appeal of the game Klonoa. This game similarly uses 2D gameplay in a 3D environment, but Klonoa uses this style to truly take advantage of the 3D space. It allows the level design to be even more dynamic and varied, while being able to make the world feel more lived in. This would have been a perfect opportunity to expand upon the jumping between different background layers mechanic from Risky's Revenge, but that's just the thought I had. On that note, let's talk about something completely unrelated. It's stage 3 of the Shantae speaking story arc. Now Shantae has surpassed Komi entirely, and can now speak full sentences. Sometimes. Okay, she's no Najimi, but she's getting there. But wait, now Shantae's friends can talk as well, also sometimes. The new voice cast greatly helps to emphasize the variety, in personalities this amazing cast has. This is a great new addition that helps to increase the feeling of high production values from this title, in an area where the previous games may have lacked in. Half-Genie Hero may have been weaker than the previous title in terms of gameplay, but it heavily made up for it almost everywhere else, making it a worthy entry in this now heavily underrated series. After both the insane highs of both Pirate's Curse and Half-Genie Hero, how could Wayforward possibly improve the Shantae franchise? Well, let's just say they answered the Sirens call. And now we get to the latest game in the Shantae series, which also happens to be my favourite. This is Shantae and the 7 Sirens. The way I see it, this game is the true evolution of the Pirate's Curse style gameplay, taking everything that worked in that game and evolving it. And even then, it still doesn't disregard what Half-Genie Hero did for the series. You can still transform into animals, but now they're fully integrated into Shantae's moveset like in Pirate's Curse, meaning that now her regular dancing skills are reserved for ultimate magic dance abilities. Because 7 Sirens combines the best ideas present from Pirate's Curse and Half-Genie Hero, it allows this most recent entry in the series to also be quite possibly the best. I might be a little biased though, because in this game, one of the biggest new selling points is the greater focus on the story, and with that came fully animated cutscenes for the first time in the series. The opening cinematic was even animated by Studio Trigger. They're the studio behind works like Little Witch Academia, SSSS Squidman, the best episode of Star Wars Visions, and Kill la Kill. And I gotta say, it is impossible to sit still while watching this opening.
Rise and shine, don't wanna work, I'd rather play. Shake my hips and whip my hair, it's a new day.
The greater focus on story this time around is clear thanks to these cutscenes, honestly allowing 7 Sirens to not only feel the most cinematic out of any Shantae game, but also letting the stakes of the plot be better understood and conveyed. But what is this high stakes plot, you ask? Well, this time around, Shantae and friends take a well-needed vacation over to the brand new Paradise Island. There, she quickly befriends a group of other Half-Genie allies, all before things don't go exactly as planned, as Shantae discovers that this island may secretly be holding some sinister secrets, 7 of which being the devious Sirens. Will Shantae be able to save her new Half-Genie friends? What is up with this island? And who are the 7 Sirens?
Find out next on Sonic X!
In previous Shantae installments, I always enjoyed the story for the most part, not because they're necessarily riveting or peak storytelling, but because of how the characters' interactions between each other shape the story being told. And I think 7 Sirens not only does this best, partially thanks to all the new characters like Harmony, Plink, Vera, and Zapple, but it also just has a legitimately engaging story too, while also expanding upon ongoing plot threads from previous games. There's an actual mystery that slowly unveils itself as you explore through the dungeons and caves beneath the island. Almost every dialogue interaction is purposeful in exploring the characters' thoughts, giving the story as a whole much more depth due to seeing everyone's reactions changing throughout the game as events take place. Those reactions being all the more memorable, thanks to 7 Sirens bringing the epic conclusion to the Shantae speaking story arc. Yeah, that was a smooth transition. In-game, she now speaks full sentences much more often, as well as all of her main cast of friends, villains, and general side characters too, along with having the animated cutscenes fully voiced as well. But it doesn't stop there, as a few years later, Wayforward dropped the spectacular Superstar update. And with this update came a brand new trailer, featuring for the first time in 20 years, Shantae speaking not only full sentences, but an entire conversation. It feels so weird, but so right. Shantae is no longer Komi, she is a Najiri. And that's the end of me shoehorning Komi can't communicate into a Shantae video. This whole segment may have been pointless, but as I now understand, good voice acting can be very effective in making dumb edits.
Pigiano! I choose you!
This is dumb.
That being said, I also believe the story in Seven Sirens heavily succeeds in giving context to the gameplay. For instance, the bosses in previous Shantae games were pretty fun, but a lot of them didn't really contribute towards the plot. Defeating the Sirens in comparison is directly tied to saving the other half-genies, while fighting Risky Boots is directly tied to learning about her plan, while also learning more about the true threat behind the scenes, making the reveal of the final boss all the more impactful. My point is, there was clearly some actual thought put into this story to make it not only entertaining, but also exciting and intriguing to leave the player with a lasting impression. When I'm replaying most games, I usually skip the cutscenes to get straight back to the gameplay, but when I'm playing Seven Sirens, I want to see these cutscenes, I want to read the dialogue, I want to see these characters interact. I can't even say that for most AAA games. There's just something about the writing in this game that is so charming, memorable, and funny that just really makes me love the story in this spectacular game. And that's the final Shantae game currently released. Now that I've covered every mainline Shantae game, from the original all the way to Seven Sirens, there's only one question that remains.
Now what?
You'd think that's where Shantae's story ends for now, with this being her most recent release and all, but with the ending of Seven Sirens clearly hinting that the creators have more in mind for the Half-Genie, I think it's clear that eventually we'll continue to get new and improved games in the Shantae series. So the question is, with the critical success of this franchise, and with a stronger and more devoted fanbase than ever before, what's next? With a series that holds as much potential as Shantae does, anything's possible. So for the next Shantae game, my biggest hope is that Wayforward continues to refine their winning formula even further. Shantae clearly has the potential for greatness. So if the creators can continue to build upon the best aspects of this series, we could get a game even better than Pirate's Curse and Seven Sirens. You could bring in the quick and satisfying gameplay of Pirate's Curse, and a variety of playstyles from Half-Genie Hero, and the emphasis on story from Seven Sirens, while keeping the spirit and originality of a Shantae game from Risky's Revenge, to make the ultimate Shantae game. There are so many ways you could add to the Shantae formula. What if you could combine Shantae's awesome dash attack with Risky's grappling hook to make some sort of fast-paced parkour system? You could keep the pirate weapons to add to Shantae's movement capabilities, while keeping the animal transformations for some fun puzzle solving. Now that would be a decent evolution of both Pirate's Curse and Seven Sirens. I especially want the series to try a new art style again. The different art styles present in each game really contribute to giving them their own personality, and if anything, Shantae has proven that she can successfully be incorporated into different styles. These all give Shantae a new look, and they each work really well. Hopefully this next game I'm thinking of won't be limited by a poor exclusivity deal. Everything I've praised about Shantae in this video goes to show that this franchise really does have that much potential to be a well-known and popular video game series, and that's one of the main reasons why I love it so much. A lot of series are perfectly content with making one good game, and not really trying to improve it, or simply just giving up on it when its popularity fades. But the existence of the Shantae series at all is one of those rare cases of a creator not giving up on an idea, and always striving to make it the best it could possibly be. The original Shantae underperformed and faded from notoriety, but now in 2022, she is considered an indie icon, showcasing the massive potential any idea could have. I mean, she's been officially recognized in Smash Bros. Ultimate as both a spirit and a Mii fighter. If that doesn't show just how impressive the Shantae series is, I don't know what will. All I hope is that Matt Bozon, his team, and all of Wayforward will continue to create new and impressive stories that get the recognition they absolutely deserve, as part of what I consider to be the spectacular world of Shantae games.
Thanks for playing.
What is that?
What is what?
It's a